Happy Halloween, gamers, and, well, I might as well get something out of the way for this time of the year. Zombies. Yes. They've not only infested, as I've established with a video game rundown review that I did a couple of years ago in 2011, with all the zombie video games, and it's still popular even to today with the Call of Duty games, Resident Evil, Dead Rising, and so forth. And Christ, now, they even affected and infested the whole movie and TV show genre between Walking Dead and movies and all this stuff. But that's not what I'm here to talk about with video games and TV shows. No, I'm here to talk about strictly movies, zombie movies. Yes, they're everywhere, and you can't avoid them, especially this time of the year. So, what the hell, I'll do a top 10 and a few honorable mentions thrown in here as well of what I think the best zombie movies are. And it's going to be no surprise since I pretty much reviewed a few of them before. So, yeah. The rules are, as long as zombies are associated with this topic, it doesn't have to be strictly horror. It could be comedy, horror, action, even romance as well. If you get what I mean on that part. So, yes. It can't be TV shows. So, no offense, I'm very sorry. I apologize to you Walking Dead fans. Oh, come on, it's not a movie. I know it's on each, whatever channel it's on, but it's not a movie, it's a TV show, even though I'm not a really big fan of that show, but I know it's big nowadays, but it's gotta be strictly movies. So, here we go, number 10, Night of the Comet. Okay, you're probably wondering, how is this a zombie movie? Well, this is a movie from the 80s, which I know some of the effects may look a little outdated for today's standards, but it's about, obviously, your typical post-apocalyptic world, and I know a lot of these are post-apocalyptic. I mean, what kind of zombie apocalypse is, not your typical run-down cities, and everything's in ruins, and the whole world's gone to hell type of scenario, and that's what majority of these movies are, and this one is no exception. Comet hits the whole world, and what do you know? Everyone who's not protected is obviously turned to powder or dust or whatever, and whoever was protected by steel or metal was, well, not affected by the whole comet, and this was supposedly theorized as what killed the dinosaurs. And as I said, the effects may look a little fake, and yeah, it's definitely got a lot of nostalgia feel to it, and it's real, got a, like when they're driving through the cities and there's no one around and only a few people left on the whole planet possibly, so they gotta start all over type of scenario. And what do the girls do? Well, yeah, these are your main characters that are not infected by the whole comet end of the world scenario. What do? They take advantage and they go shopping. Yeah, free stuff. What do you expect? What else would they do? And yes, a Simpsons episode, obviously, Treehouse of Horror parodied this one. But then, of course, they realize there are other survivors, the non-infected ones. But then there's also zombies, and this is where the whole zombie thing comes in, because they gotta stop them, and, well, yeah, their day of mauling becomes a day of mowling. Whatever the hell that means, but, yeah, bottom line, zombies are in this, so it counts, and that's why it's so low on the list, because, well, the zombies don't come in until later, well, beginning and then later on in the movie. Good film, I check it out. Number 9, Warm Bodies. Okay. When I saw the trailer for this, I was like, really? This looks like another Twilight? And I'm sure a lot of people thought that too. But much to my surprise, after all the positive reception it was getting, and yes, I know it's based off a book like Twilight, believe me, it's nothing like those. And it's just one movie, it's not 2 hours long, it's not over-dramatized, it's actually not bad at all. And yes, it's obviously played by the same actor who played the younger version of Beast from the X-Men movies, as well as Jack the Giant Slayer. And he does a really good job as R. And yes, R is the character's name, and the fact that he falls for a girl, starts with the first name J, is obviously a reference to Romeo and Juliet. Classic Shakespeare right there. And, the whole balcony scene. So yes, it's a romance movie, but it's not taken too, seriously or over-dramatized. So it actually has some funny moments to it. And like I said, it's actually, it's believable for the most part. And it gets right to the root of things. It doesn't go... it doesn't go on too long. And it's only an hour and a half long, so it's not bad at all. The characters are likable, and as I said, it's actually not bad. So, yes, it's a romance movie, but it's not a terrible one. Trust me, it's actually good. Number 8, World War Z. Okay, I obviously praised this one in my best movies of 2013 list, And some people gave it a more of a mixed reception, and that's why I put it this low on the list. But I actually enjoyed this one, even though it does have some slow scenes. And yes, just like the last one, it's based off a book. This one stars Brad Pitt, who I critically acclaimed for most movies. I mean, he was in Moneyball, he was in the latest movie Fury, and this one is really no exception. Yes, it's a little bit overlong depending on if you watch the extended edition or theatrical edition or not. And yes, I know it's a PG-rated zombie movie, and yeah, it's about how he travels the world trying to find a cure, so it does try to get to the root of things, but instead it kind of goes on a little too long at some parts. I will complain about that, and yes, it doesn't really have much of an ending. Spoiler alert on most of these choices here and there, so you may not want to watch this whole video if you don't want to be spoiled, but yeah, it does more or less set up for a sequel that originally wasn't going to happen, and now I think it is going to happen, so yeah, that's all that I gotta say about that one. Typical classic zombie movie, but yeah, not too much blood. But there is one scene with the impalement, which I was a little bit surprised that it only got away with the PG-13 rating. But otherwise, check this one out. Unless you prefer the book more, I'd read the book before watching the movie. You may like it better, but either way, I respect your choice on whatever you choose. But good film, I definitely check it out. Number 7, Maggie. Okay, this is obviously a film and a bit over-dramatized for the most part about a young girl who's obviously the daughter, Abigail Breslin, who you probably remember from the critically acclaimed comedy Little Miss Sunshine, and she gets infested, and she's obviously, her father's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this was a mixed bag, I understand that, and it is a slow movie, but it's pretty convincing for the most part of how, she's spending the last couple of hours of her life, before she becomes fully infested by the whole zombie plague that she gets infested with. So, yeah, it's slow and, and sometimes it's very tear-jerking for the most part, but it's not bad at all. It's pretty good. So I definitely check this one out if you got the chance. I know it's not the best, but that's why it's at this spot. And I enjoyed it for what it was. Number 6, Shaun of the Dead. Okay, well, this one's a good mix of horror and comedy as well, about obviously a 20-year-old electronic salesman who obviously has no purpose in life, and he's trying to win back his ex-girlfriend and everything, and it's a very convincing and very funny story, as I said. It blends its comedy with horror and action as well, and, well, he proves himself worthy by, of course, fighting off the zombie apocalypse. What else do you expect? I don't think I have to say much more about this one. It's very enduring, and it obviously became a huge cult classic, so check it out if you got the chance. Not much to spoil right here on this one. It's really good. Number 5, Zombie 2. Yeah, this is one of the only few times I actually consider this one better than the first one, and this one is just a straight-up horror film. It's gruesome, it's disgusting, it's wow. And in some parts of the world, they actually had to censor this movie because it was so gruesome, but let me tell you, it's really good. And obviously, during the time it was made, I can understand that, because it's just like the Friday the 13th original movies. They had to censor most of the scenes for being so gruesome. And this one, well, if you can get the uncensored version, it's really good. I mean, it's just insane with the bloody violence, the suspense, the jump scares. It is, wow, incredible. And like I said, it's one of the few sequels that actually is better than the first original film, so definitely check it out if you're a fan of horror and, of course, zombie films, and that's why it's on this list. Number 4, Zombieland. Okay, well, obviously I reviewed this one many years ago when it first came out back in 2009, and there's not much to say about this. It's a terrific blend of comedy and horror and action as well, so not much to say about this one. 4 surviving characters that they think are the only ones left after zombies have pretty much turned the whole planet into a living hell. And narration is great. I love how all the rules are established with your typical nerd stereotype who's returning from college and trying to return home, and he comes across a loose cannon played by Woody Harrelson, and of course the nerdy character is played by Jesse Eisenberg, who's already done a lot of great films like Adventureland, and of course The Social Network, and he's even obviously going to play Lex Luthor in the upcoming Superman vs. Batman film. Still left beyond that one, but not to get too carried away. Yeah, he establishes the rules very well. I mean, between having cardio and, not being stingy with your ammunition and seatbelts, and yeah, it's great how every time it's applied, it comes up in big bold words, and of course he comes across, or I should say, them two come across two girls. The young girl again played by Abigail Breslin. Yeah, 2 zombie movies she was in, and of course the older one played by Emma Stone, who you probably remember as Gwen Stacy. Not well without the blonde hair. Obviously, she has darker hair in this movie, and both of them make their way across country despite their rather twisted relationship here and there. But yeah, they managed to work together and, well, pretty much enjoy life. Tallahassee is probably my favorite character. He's the one played by Woody Harrelson, and he's after what else than a Twinkie. Yeah, I guess enjoy the little things in life. But it's a great comedy, and it does have its share of jump scares as well, especially with the apartment scene and everything. And yeah, it's a like Ghostbusters, great mix of horror and comedy. And speaking of Ghostbusters, yes, Bill Murray makes a cameo appearance in this movie. That alone is worth the price of an admission ticket, or to buy if you saw it in theaters, that is, or to buy this movie on DVD or Blu-ray. So yeah, what better saying than the nut up or shut up? That's where it comes from right there. That's where I got that line from. Definitely check this one out. It's definitely worth it. Number 3, 28 Days Later. Okay, this one, of course, again, focuses on 4 remaining survivors after a zombie apocalypse broke out. But this one is not a comedy, obviously, unlike Zombieland. This one is more of a serious and more suspenseful, and just when you get that feel, it puts that into you so well, of all the, post-apocalyptic scenery and everything. Like, the whole world's gone to hell, and just like all these other zombie movies, that's what it gives you the feel, and it's got that serious, dark tone to it, and it does a superb job with it, trying to, get everyone to try to survive the whole apocalypse and get over after the whole thing spread. And that's pretty much what happens with these apocalypses. But this one, like I said, it's this very serious tone to it, and it does a great job with that. So great that it even got a sequel. Spoiler alert right there. But great film, I definitely check it out. Unless you're looking for comedy, then check out Zombieland. But this one's obviously not a comedy. Number 2, Dawn of the Dead. Okay, this one is, again, focuses on the survivors trying to survive the zombie apocalypse, but this time it's in a shopping mall. Yeah, kind of like a video game, in some of the levels of Left 4 Dead. I forget which one exactly, but yeah, this one does a great job, like the last couple of choices that I did, and it solely shows how scary and terrifying an empty place can really be when you don't know what's lurking. What zombie can come jumping out at you, and pretty much it's every man for themselves before they get infested by the dreaded disease. I mean, this one, of course, was directed by George A. Romero, who was famous and I thought pretty underrated at the time when he was big during the 1970s and 80s, when he did a lot of horror films, which were pretty mixed bags. I mean, he did this one, of course, which was great, and of course he did the original Crazies and a couple other films, which I thought were pretty decent. But otherwise, yeah, I stick with this, obviously, over the remake. Spoiler alert there once again. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Alright, well, before I get to number 1, I figured I'll do a couple honorable mentions. Dawn of the Dead 2004 remake. Yeah, surprisingly, a really good horror film remake. I mean, not that it's actually better than the original. I'd say the original is just slightly better, obviously. That's why it's an honorable mentions choice. But I'd say it's almost just as good. Obviously, it's brought in color and with more updated effects, but in this case, with some horror film remakes, yeah, less is probably more, because, well, you gotta give them credit for, how limited special effects were back in those days. Just like the original King Kong. You can't say it's fake because, well, special effects were limited back then when the original was first released. Dead Snow. Yeah, what does this remind you of? The Nazi zombie game, and that's pretty much what this movie is. It's Nazis that become zombified, and it's pretty fun just watching their brains get blown out. What better can you ask for than blood and gore and zombies? It's pretty much what you get out of it. 28 Weeks Later. Yeah, a sequel to 28 Days Later. Yeah, might as well feed off the success of the great zombie apocalypse movie right there with the sequel, which probably did just almost as good. Well, I should say almost, because obviously that's why it made the honorable mention spot, like all the other 2 choices here. But It's definitely worth checking out if you like the first one, 28 Days Later. Yeah, that's what you'd expect. And the number one best zombie movie, which pretty much I'm sure anybody can agree with, what better than the original black and white classic, Night of the Living Dead. Obviously, yeah, I mean, come on. Yes, there was a remake, but let's face it, it was not as good. Because first of all, like the original Psycho, it was in glorious black and white to give you that great feel, you know? That suspense, the horror. And yes, I know, like any other original horror classic, yes, the special effects are limited, but come on, let's be honest here. This one is what you call classic zombie horror. Give it credit for what it is, it's definitely worth checking out. I don't think I have to really say much about this one for anybody who hasn't seen this original black and white horror classic from 1968. Go see this one, not the remake. I mean, the remake, just don't even bother, trust me. This one is the one you want to see, and it will infest you with what great zombie horror classic is all about. So, that's my list. If you don't agree with it, keep in mind, strictly my opinion. I know there's other horror zombie classics out there. Till next time, happy Halloween, and beware of zombies. Keep watching.